The first arc of the final saga of One Piece has concluded, and I have some thoughts. Overwhelmingly positive, but there are some negatives, so let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to say is that I believe Egghead Island is the best post-time skip arc. It has just about everything that I enjoy about One Piece in one arc without having pacing issues like so many post-time skip arcs, and even a lot of pre-time skip arcs have. Or at the very least, they're not as egregious as the other arcs. Kuma's backstory was a standout amongst the events of this arc. This backstory was both curated to deliver on the hype that this character has had since Thriller Bark, as well as making everybody who reads it very sad while they read it. Praising Oda's ability to write backstories is usually kind of a no-brainer, but in this case, I say he went above and beyond. Fully fleshing out Bartholomew Kuma's character, as well as showing the people that he's had along his way to get to the point where he is at, and just how depressing this backstory gets. And even taking Kuma out of the equation, it shows off so much of this world that we've been paying attention to for so long, as well as giving more context to events that happened in the past, and building up stuff for the future. And in the event of God Valley, it does both. Like seriously, when are we going to see what happened on this damn island? And then there's Kuma's relationships with Ginny and Bonnie. I didn't think Oda had it in him to go as dark as he did with Ginny. And then you have Kuma giving up literally everything for Bonnie's sake, which is even crazier when you realize that the god he believes in, the sun god Nika, is the embodiment of liberation and freedom. The thing that Kuma has been looking for his whole life, but he could never get. But also his suffering paved the way for his daughter to be free, and that's all Kuma ever wanted since Bonnie came into his life. Which means that Kuma's dream has been fulfilled since Bonnie has found freedom by going with the Straw Hats off the island. She even got to meet and, in a way, become the god that they worship. So even in this backstory being the most depressing thing to come out of One Piece, there is still some level of joy to be found in it, since this story is all about dreams and chasing after those dreams, and Kuma all his life was chasing after those dreams. That dream of freedom, that dream of liberation, and while he could never get it, his daughter was able to. And now hopefully, she will join the Straw Hats alongside Lilith. 'Cause that makes sense, Oda, add more females to the crew. But overall, that whole part of the story is like peak Oda writing, and I will never slander anything about Kuma. For a negative, I'd like to point out that Frankie got no focus in this arc, which is something I've talked about briefly in one of my other videos, my expectations for Elbaf, but I feel like it's worth mentioning again. Oda and whoever was working alongside him on this arc fell short when it came to giving Frankie any substantial moments on this island that was tailor-made to give him some amount of development. He's sailing away from the island without having learned or gained anything, and that is a huge issue that I'm always going to have with this arc. Because I would have hoped that Oda would have learned from what happened on Wano, with all the false promises that happened with Zoro relating to that arc, but he just repeated the mistake with the very next arc, and that is very frustrating. Back to the positives, we saw all these crazy events taking place off-island. Blackbeard and Law, Shanks vs. Kid, Garp's galaxy impact and fight with Kuzan, Kobe's near-island level feat, as well as potential Conqueror's Haki, which I'm almost certain he has, because the story demands he has it, and it is extremely stupid that people are trying to argue that he doesn't. There's also Vivi, a character I've been wanting to rejoin the crew since she left the crew. This arc went off-island just as much as we were on it, and some of what we got off-island was just as good, if not better than what we got on-island. The off-island events are excellent setup for what comes next. Here's another negative. There's a damn time skip that skips some stuff that seems like it was pretty crucial. Who injured Robin is my biggest question, because there's clear signs of a conflict, but we don't see any of it. Robin being taken down means that they were decently strong. This one might be a bit more gripey, but I think it's still valid. Back to the positives. The battles in this arc were insane. The 5 elders finally making a move is long overdue, and they're so strong that it took Emmeth, the Iron Giant who was friends with Joy Boy, using the Haki of Joy Boy to get rid of them, as well as it showing us what the pinnacle of Haki is in this verse. They were so strong that Gear 5 Luffy, with all of his insane Haki and Toon Force, couldn't do anything and needed help to eject one of them from the battlefield. Egghead Island showed us what the pinnacle of this verse can do. Not even just the elders, you have Garp with his galaxy impact almost blowing a hole through the island, you have Shanks' divine departure, which looked like it was probably stronger than Roger's, at least the one that he used against Odin. Then you have Joy Boy's Conqueror's Haki, which can overwhelm the Gorosei. Oda's really been showing off the ceiling of this verse, and that is really cool to finally see. Back to negatives. Why has Dragon still not done anything? Even during Kuma's backstory he didn't do anything, and now I'm wondering if he can do anything that makes this wait acceptable. I'm not doubting that he'll do something eventually, but we've been waiting for him to do anything since Logtown. We have waited entirely too long for somebody in Dragon's position, that being the head of one of the biggest factions in the verse, to do anything. All he does is look east with the ellipses. He either needs to make a move or give the role to Sabo, because the verse seems to be backing Sabo anyways. Back to positives. Void Century information was scattered all throughout this arc, and for the final saga where all that information is going to be crucial, that is a really good way to set it all up. Emmeth the Iron Giant and his connection with Joy Boy, the Buccaneers, as well as the Lunarians, but that's more so past arc stuff, as well as those two things' connection with the Ancient Kingdom, Vivi being a D, and finding out that her ancestor, Nefertari D. Lily, had committed some type of crime against the world government. And then there's the mystery of Imu Narona, the man who sits on the empty throne. And with all that stuff, I don't think there is an arc in One Piece that has unloaded as much information on the Void Century as this one. One more positive, and then I'll give my final thoughts. Vegapunk's message was probably the best way this arc could have concluded. The race for the One Piece is nearing its end, and it will be a sprint that Vegapunk just fired the starting gun for. In the same way that Goldie Roger started the great age of piracy on his execution platform, and with how Whitebeard reinvigorated it on Marineford by saying the One Piece is real, Vegapunk's message to the world signals that the conclusion is on its way. And on chapter 1121, we get a double-page spread of all the people that will be gunning for the One Piece. And at the end of it, one of them will emerge with the treasure. The treasure that Joy Boy and Roger left for whoever could find it. During his message, we also got to go around the whole world seeing all the places that we got to experience throughout the story, which really made it feel like we were in the endgame. If you couldn't tell by what I had to say about Egghead, I actually really enjoyed this arc. I still have a few pre-time skip islands ahead of it. This is easily my favorite post-time skip arc, and you can tell that Oda and his editors put a lot of effort into it. Kuma got promoted to my third favorite character behind Whitebeard and Robin. We've seen the pinnacle of power in this verse with Joy Boy's Haki. We've seen what the strongest living characters are capable of. We've begun to unravel the mysteries of this world, and Oda has set the stage for the end of One Piece. And it really helps that this arc is pretty damn well paced. So yeah, a very good arc, and I hope that this is a good sign for what we have coming up. That's all from me, but I want to hear from you. What were your thoughts on Egghead Island, and what are you looking forward to? Leave it down below. Have a nice day, and I'll see you soon.